So we've got Peter in from Tech for Togs. He's going to have a chat with us about sort of all the tech stuff that we have questions for. So we got a few questions to ask. Cam, I think you want to start off with this.
I do, yes. Thanks again, Pete, for joining us. This is great having a tech person coming on and trying to explain things in a very basic sort of way, because we can all really sort of get lost with tech, can't we? We love tech, let's be honest, we do love it, but we do get lost with abbreviations and really what's happening when it doesn't need to be that complicated. So Pete's great.
Cam, we kind of get lost in that. Well, not lost, but we kind of get excited about sort of, I'd say, like, not superficial tech, but window dressing tech, things like mirrorless cameras and we can do this and that and that. This is like, because last time we had Peter on, and do listen to that episode, we were talking about different backup systems like NAS systems and RAID systems and all this, and this is like really deep tech that I have no idea of what about. It's the difference between a jazzy keyboard and like the chip behind it. So yeah, it's great to have you on, because as I say, this is stuff that I couldn't explain at all. So
yeah, and I think this is really important for not whether you're a hobbyist or you just take a few photos, or whether you're a working professional who's just started out or you've been around, established for many years. We all want to sort of be backing up our files and making sure that we're doing the right things. And talking about tech very quickly, Mark, I just want to make a quick comment here. I'm just going to not sort of go off topic here, but you being an Apple user, it's just come across, isn't it, how Apple have caved in, haven't they? With they're now not going to be using, is it their sort of Thunderbolt dedicated plug-in system, are they? They're going to be going USB-C or something, aren't they?
Yeah, which is probably the right call. I mean, look, all companies have these little things. I mean, I've spoken to, I think I said on the podcast before, Sony used to use the Sony memory stick in all their camcorders and digital cameras, and Peter's rolling his eyes. I know you guys can't see it, but you guys can't see it. But yeah, all companies have had this thing that they do, that they try and this is no different with the Thunderbolt. I mean, the Thunderbolt cable is a very good cable, by the way. I mean, it's very quick with the charging and all that kind of stuff, but it's no good. USB, I mean, I find USB-C a pain in the bum as well, to be honest, but it is the way things are going.
I wonder whether this is, Apple, getting with it. Anyway, look, let's not go into Apple versus Mac right here. Yeah. Okay. So, Peter, I wanted to sort of get back on topic.
Well, actually, maybe we should. Let's talk about Apple versus. We got a tech guy on here.
Okay.
Hang on. Right. So, PCs versus Mac, Peter. Where are you with that?
So, my personal opinion is, it's apples and pears. They are very, very different, but obviously from the same family, right? I would never use my Mac to play video games. My son loves his PC for that. He's 15 and he's just built his new PC, so maybe he's following his footsteps, right? But then again, I used to use a PC for a long period of time, and I found, and bear in mind, this was, we're talking Windows Vista, Windows 7, starting with Windows 10, and I found I was spending more time doing stuff to this operating system to make it work, scanning for viruses, optimizing the hard drive. I was spending more time doing that than I was getting on with the work, or I'd be constantly interrupted. You need to do Windows updates. They have to be done now, now, just now,
Yeah.
So I moved away from that because I was conscious that it was disrupting me from getting on with the job of being a photographer. I can't pretend that I didn't like the look of Macs, because aesthetically they're beautiful, right?
Yeah. Ergonomically as well, they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reliability is what gets me as well. Now, all computers are fallible. They rely on mechanical and physical parts that just unsustainable. So the reliability for Macs is what gets me. I know that I'm paying more money. That's my choice. You don't buy a Ferrari to get you down to the shops. You buy it because it looks great and you've got a great engine, you've got the heritage. That being said, there are things that frustrate me with Apple. As a company, they do tend to want to innovate. They were the first company to remove floppy disks from their computers.
Yeah.
From I don't know whether anybody remembers. Remember the bowl, the iMacs with the bowl with the swivel.
Yeah, I remember those.
Remember
Yeah,
those?
yeah,
Those Power Macs.
Yeah.
They were the first people, and people were like, "You're nuts! Nobody's gonna use CDs."
Yeah.
You know? And then CDs went, and they're like, "Well, where do we put our CDs?
Yeah.
Now, who's using a CD? Really? You know, you might use Blu-rays, but to watch movies, but nobody's storing the data."
No.
Right? So they are innovative in a lot of ways. They were the first person to bring with the lightning cable. That's the cable
Thunderbolt. Lightning.
The lightning. The Thunderbolt's the other one.
Thunderbolt's the other one. Yeah, sorry, I was getting confused.
The lightning cable is the first cable really to have both sides. You could switch it around to both sides for a mobile device. It wasn't until USB-C came in then that you could use the cable both ways, right? So innovation, I think, is a good thing because it pushes everybody forward, and Apple's still being a bit defiant. Their USB-C cable is a proprietary USB-C, so it bases on their technology, but you can also pay now to get a faster USB-C cable with the iPhone 15, which has just recently been received. But they do look at research and development. A typical example would be, and just quickly because I know we're going to go and talk about the other things. When you look at the 2021 MacBook Pros, from the 29 MacBook Pros, they'd removed everything. Everything was USB-C. People were outraged because MagSafe had disappeared. And then in the next model, the 16-inch MacBook Pros, the card reader's back in the side. The HDMI is back. So they do listen to people, although it can take a couple of generations of years to do it. But and then PCs do have their place. It's just a personal choice for me to focus on the work, not on the tech, really. It should be invisible to the work.
I mean, I was using, I started off with PC for many years, then moved to Mac, and then went back to PC. And I think the reason for that was because our workflow, our type of work rather, was changing. We were really a photography only company, and then going back to 2015, we then went to we introduced video, and video has become a huge part of what we do. We probably now do more video than we do photography. But then a few years ago, I think going back now to 2017, we started introducing drones as well. So, and what we were finding was all this additional video work that we had. Obviously files were much bigger. Suddenly we went from photography files to using raw video files, as such. So, we were using it's just gone out of my mind now, the Sony RAW system for video files. It will come to me. Anyway, so our file size was suddenly much, much bigger. And so talking to the guy that always helped us put our PCs and our Macs together and everything and link everything up, he was saying that, look, if you go down the PC route, everything is, it does bring costs down, but also everything is more customizable. You can add more memory, you can change things and you can upgrade the computers as you move along. So every 2 or 3 years, we can, as long as we've got a good size case for our desktops, we could upgrade and change and bring, and that's what we've actually been doing all these years now. We have a PC sort of say after a few years, we sort of upgrade that PC by bringing in new components, new graphics cards, and so we've found that to be a better option than having gone with Mac, and that's why we actually did that.
Yeah.
And I know that people get precious over, I've got a Mac, I've got a PC, or, especially Mac users can get very precious.
PC users have a chip on their shoulder.
No, let's be honest, right? Let's be honest, right?
It's an Intel chip.
Let's be honest, right?
I like it. That's a real tech joke there.
Let's be honest, Mac. Yeah, look, I've been a Mac user, so I've been one of those people. It was Mac all the way, everything. Oh no, it's not Mac knocks the spots off everything. Okay, Mac, it does in many ways because you obviously don't have the anti-virus issues. As you do with PC, you don't have those sort of issues. They do. I think. Well, I say they do look cooler. I think PCs have really caught up in their style now and everything. Of that, and cost is a huge consideration. I think a lot of people want to get a Mac because, hey, I've got a Mac. I
mean, that is the biggest downside of the Macs is the cost. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You are paying a lot more for a Mac, and that can put people off. But
I think they last longer. I think the shelf life of a Mac, I do believe is considerably longer.
Absolutely.
And so then when you weigh up cost from there, the initial outlay of a Mac might be a hell of a lot more than a PC. But in actual fact, if you weigh it up with the shelf life that you've had from a Mac compared to that same PC, the cost is probably not that different actually.
They tend to be more cost effective in some ways because my daughter has a 2010 iMac in the other room. She only uses it now for browsing the web, but that's still working perfectly. It's running a very old operating system. She can't do any of the newer things, but that still works.
But a lot of photographers they will say, oh no, it's much quicker to do editing on a Mac. Videographers and whatever. But if we specifically said we're just talking about photographers and videographers, let's say we took a Mac, let's say we took a top-end Mac and we built a PC to the same spec of that Mac, because you can do. At the end of the day, what's going to be the better option? You've got like for like here. What's going to be the better option? I think this is the question that most people would want to know, because so if I go and buy a PC, the spec may not be as good as the Mac, or the PC that I've got is a better spec than the Mac. So I know one's going to be better than the other. But let's say that they have both got the same spec. What's going to be the better option?
Well, then it comes down to your personal preference, your operating systems. Okay. So how a Mac uses hardware and how Windows uses hardware is very different because of the operating system. So, for instance, you look at, without going too technical, but the way that the drives kind of are formatted. If you use a Mac system, you can't use the hard drives if it's formatted for Mac on a PC, and you can't use a PC for a Mac without proprietary programs. You can format hard drives so that they will work on both, but it's not as efficient. So it does come down if price isn't an option and you're ordering computers of comparable specification side by side, it comes down to the experience. It's all about the UX, as my son calls it. It's the UX, all about the user experience. And I think that's something that really does need to be taken into consideration. The other thing as well, just to think about, is that so every couple of years, you can upgrade your PC, maybe put hard drives in it, and you're making it last longer. For a Mac, you can't really do that. But what you've got to think about as well is that the new programs that come out and the new operating systems that come out are always built with the newest architecture in mind. So when my Mac here, so I've got a 2019 i9 64 gig of RAM iMac 27-inch here. And I lease my Macs. There's no surprise about it, because after the lease ends, I get to keep it for £1, and I'll go and lease another one. But what that does is it moves the architecture upwards, so that rather than just using older architecture, think of it being like an older engine and just add in, more hard drive space. I'm still only using architecture that's currently now 4 years old, So when I renew that Mac, I'm getting the latest processors that have the latest instructions on it. So maybe they can do things quicker, and it's not necessarily about having more hard drive space. That's not the only consideration for me. It's about changing the kind of internal components within the Mac. Now you can do that with a PC, but then is that even then the same PC? Because you might keep the case on the outside and change the motherboard, which is the bit that everything plugs into, and the processor, which is the brain, and then you might add extra RAM in there that's faster. Well, it's like Trigger's broom. It's not the same. It's not,
What an analogy.
Yeah, it's like Trigger's broom. It's not. How the heck is it even the same PC?
Same broom. Yeah.
But that's the point, right? So that's the thing Mac forces you to do. But for me, it's a good thing because it forces me then when I go and, like, I'll sell the old Mac or I'll give it to my kids or what have you. It forces me then to have the next level of architecture. And an example would be the Mac recently introduced, or I say recently, in the last couple of years, have introduced their own processors, the M1 range, M2 range. And they did it before with Motorola, before Intel became the preferred supplier of choice for their processors. But these new processors are more power efficient. They are, they've got more cores, which allow you to do more things at the same time, and they're just generally better than what Intel was producing at the last part, because Apple have gone, well, what do we want out of a processor? What should it do? We want to give people more battery life. How do we achieve that? So them designing it, Apple spend more on research and development than the US government spend on defense.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's an incredible stat.
$1 trillion company.
Woo.
$1 trillion company. So when you buy a Mac, you're not just paying for the aesthetics, you're paying for the 2 years of research and development by thousands and thousands of staff, constantly pushing the edge on not only what is available, but what they can do. How do they take something that is already good and make it better? So
I'm guessing. So just to say, there's also probably a plus point for having it all built by one company.
Fewer things go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had those issues with PC with certain parts being, compatible and not being so compatible.
Yeah.
Luckily, the guy that does it for me, does know his stuff, but he has sort of said to me certain things aren't as compatible. So you have to know somebody who knows that. You have to be using somebody who does their stuff.
PCs tend to lean. PC users tend to have more understanding and more technical knowledge because they'll know what components they want to go inside the unit. Whereas Mac units just want to get on with perhaps the job that they're doing. You throw a Mac down and use that, and you can just get on. You haven't got to worry whether your hard drive needs to be optimized or this,
it's
that, the other.
We've sort of gone, well, I mean, today's episode wasn't supposed to be what we're talking about. We were coming on to, so we've changed it. So we'll continue with it.
Yeah, because it's interesting.
Yeah. But so I'm going to jump on to the next question. But before I do, Mark, I've mentioned this so many times, haven't I? We're going to go back to Mac and Apple and all of that. I mean, you've got to hand it to Mac, haven't you? That, their marketing is so good. They make their hardware look really sexy, really current. People want a Mac because they do look great. They've always had that. Now I think their laptops, I don't think they look as good as some of, I've got an Asus ProArt laptop, and I think that its look and its feel knocks the spots off any Mac that I've seen, and the whole feel and everything. So I think they've caught up. No, but I think I think Mac have led the way. Okay,
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, Matt and Mark, we've spoken about this many times, is the way they market things. I mean, do you remember? And they've done it recently because they bought a range of they changed their screens, don't they, to different color options, didn't they? And do you remember when they did? Do you remember when they bought out their iPhone going back a few years ago? They had different colors, didn't they?
Yeah.
And their marketing was like, and we've introduced color. It was like they'd invented color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think someone
You
should
can
probably
even
mention
have
to
it
the
in green.
yeah. I mean, I don't know
it-
about you guys. If you remember the old Nokias with the changeable front case part, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, this
Yes.
is not a new concept, Apple. Come on.
No, this is just a new Apple concept,
Yeah,
right?
well,
I know.
yes.
Well, the
I know.
new iPhone 15 Pro now comes in titanium.
All
It's
right.
actually made with
With
titanium,
titanium. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
smooth, isn't it?
Yeah.
more energy efficient, 100%
Yeah.
recyclable,
Yeah.
recyclable
Yeah.
Yeah.
aluminium. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just other companies have been doing that for a while, but again, Apple like to keep that edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
That's
like
right.
to keep that edge.
Now, I think the next question is also going to be relevant to a lot of people, because I think, particularly after what happened with COVID, with a lot of people remote working and everything, there's a thing about laptop versus desktop, and I know a lot of people are still undecided about this. I think the immediate thing is desktop is going to allow me to do things much quicker, much faster. And I know for us as a business, apart from now one PC, we've actually got rid of all of our PCs, and we've all gone laptop since COVID, because we were working, from home, and as we came out of COVID, we're now, I mean, I'm working at home a lot more than I am going into the office now. As a business, we have, and I want to talk about this on a different pod, we've gone completely, or we are in the process of going completely paperless. And two of us are in the process of doing that, and by the end of the year by the end of the year, we want to be a completely paperless company. We want to get rid of everything that we have, other than, apart from our wedding side of the business, where we have
Good
wedding
luck with that.
albums.
Good luck with that.
Apart from weddings and wedding albums, we don't want to have any sort of paper trails now of paper of anything now. And we're actually really achieving that. And really COVID has been that was a sort of seed that started all of that. But you now go into, and I laugh about this, you go into Starbucks, you go into Costa, you see all these people sitting with their laptops, working away, tapping away and everything.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that laptop versus desktop, Peter, where do you lie with that, as far as if you bought a like for like, let's just say the laptop is the same spec as your desktop, is a laptop a hands down winner because it's going to give you more portability, or is it not, or is the desktop going to have a far longer shelf life?
For me, it's always looking about what's going to suit your working environment. Okay, you can do just as well with a laptop and a dock and a screen as you can do with a desktop, an iMac. For the simple reason is that you plug your keyboard, your mouse, or what have you, or Bluetooth into your dock. You got one cable. USB-C allows transfer of data and video and power, for PCs. So you can plug one cable in, and instantly your screens are going to connect. Your internet is going to connect via maybe an Ethernet cable. Your keyboard and mouse, if they're not using Bluetooth already, are using keyboard and mouse, they're going to connect. So, but having the ability to pick that up, walk out to the house and edit at a wedding, 10 shots for the bride and groom to see, that's invaluable. That's invaluable. And it used to be years ago that you'd find that desktop devices would be more powerful, would offer a better option, but that's not the case now. Especially, I mean, I say, we joke about Apple and PC, but Apple are using the same processors in the desktop devices as they're using in their mobile devices. And with kind of all of these small Mac Mini studios and the Mac studios that you can physically pick up and put into a bag anyway, it makes for we live in a mobile world, and people need to work where they are at. Going back to an office, going here, there, working in Starbucks, kind of, it has to be
You know, yeah. I mean, our
plus,
work.
right?
Do you? Sorry, just a quick question. Sorry, that my voice went really weird there. Beg your pardon. Yeah. Do you miss the screen size though? Because that's the one thing because I bought a MacBook Pro quite recently. It's got the M2 processor and all that. It's brilliant. It's really fast. I think my desktop is fast, but I bought that. That was 2017 model. It's still, still kicking a fair amount of bottom. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I don't like when using the laptop is the size of the screen. I mean, I don't know if that has any impact on how you think about this. And
Well, here's your advantage, okay? You can buy yourself a monitor and then plug that in. And
yeah, but taking that into Starbucks is going to be an issue, though,
that's
right?
very true. I mean, look, certain environments, as a photographer as well, right? You have to think about when you're calibrating your screens for color, you're calibrating them in a specific environment. So in here, I've got white ceiling,
Yeah.
I've got light grey walls. When I calibrate my screen, it takes into consideration. That's my dogs in the background. Somebody's just walked past the window, so my apologies there.
No worries.
When you take that into consideration as well, right? Going into Starbucks where you've got all these different colours on the wall, light from the window, and Apple screens as well.
They're not the best for calibration, are they?
Not the greatest.
I never understood that.
Yeah.
Do you think? Yeah. I was going to say that with the, so I use twin screen when I'm sitting here at the office and I've got twin screen. In fact, I've just not plugged my second screen in at the moment. But yeah, I'll use twin screen. And my the laptop that I've got, the main laptop that I use now, is a 17-inch screen. So I don't. So the size of the screen doesn't really bother me so much now, Mark. I think I've just got.
Maybe just gotten used to it.
I've just got used to it.
I'm looking at you guys on a 27-inch screen.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference, I think, when you're, especially if you're doing certain types of editing. I mean, I've been doing a lot of my composites and stuff. A bigger screen is incredibly handy. As much as that, but so for me, I mean, I think when it comes to laptop versus desktop, I don't think there is a winner there. For me, I use both. For exactly all the reasons that we just spoke about. So the mobile, you need to be mobile, as Peter was saying. Of course you do. We've all been editing at a wedding. When you got that 2-hour lull during dinner or whatever it is. I remember when we were doing one with one of your weddings, Cam. I was working on one thing and you were working on another.
That's right. Yeah. Now the thing with also with the screens is getting used to it. I think also, and I think it could be a bit gimmicky, but when I was looking at my laptop, the Asus laptop that I've got, Asus do now a twin screen laptop where they've got a screen that sits at the top of the keyboard that runs the length of the keyboard, and it tilts up just a little bit. So they're trying to introduce this twin screen thing as well within laptops as well. So I think technology is going to move those things sort of much, it's going to move things forward. I think we're going to see real innovation with that. And I think, people will have a built-in twin screen into their laptops. Asus have done it. I tried it. Again, I was going to say I didn't like it, but I think you just have to get used to it. Once you've got used to it and you know what you're doing and everything. But I think for me, when I talk about, the reason why I asked that question was because I think my work has changed since COVID. At COVID, we had to work from home. And I had a laptop before COVID anyway, but I was using my laptop probably 40% of the time. And my desktop PC was using sort of more. It was using that sort of 60% of the time. And obviously COVID basically made me take my laptop home. And then what I did was we had 4 PCs at the office, and I had 3 PCs, and I just got rid of them. I just thought no one's using these PCs now. It's been 18 months since we really turned those PCs on, and I did turn them on, took off what I needed to do.
Did
and
the
I
Windows updates?
Yeah.
Massive list.
I took them to the local sort of computer. I'm really lucky. We've got a really good computer shop down the road from us. And I took them in there and I said, what can you give me, for these PCs? And I think for those 3 PCs, I think I got in total probably about 600 quid. Okay. Because they were good PCs. They had a really good spec, but it'd been 18 months since we'd used them. They just sat there, and I thought, hang on a minute, I'm going to make a thing here. And it was that thing of, do I get rid of these PCs? Do I keep them? Oh God, no, it doesn't seem right because I bought them for X amount.
But you still kept one desktop though, didn't you? I mean, there's still a desktop there.
We've got one desktop, but I want to get rid of that eventually. That's going to go. We're just leaning towards that. That's 600 quid. I just to put towards another laptop. And I've not missed those PCs at all.
It wasn't an Apple laptop though, was it?
Yeah.
600 quid.
and
600 quid.
Yeah. And I didn't just
I gave you an Apple keyboard and mouse, wouldn't it?
I know.
And what I didn't do was I didn't just disconnect those desktops and just pile them up and they're still sitting there in the room unused. I just got rid of them. And the computer shop that I went to, I deleted everything. They told me how to delete everything. Then they said they do another delete to make sure. And I've known them for years, so I totally trust them because people say I'm not handing over this PC because God only knows what's on the drive. I may never get rid of all of it, But I sort of did that, and it was the best thing that I did. But work has now led me to work, taking my laptop wherever I go. And I know this sounds obvious because people say that's what laptops are for, but it does change things. But one thing that you've got to be careful of is when you have a laptop, is that you don't is to stop yourself from working even longer hours because you think I've got my laptop, I'll just turn my laptop on. It's late at night. I'll get on with a bit of work. There's times when you have to do that, but you also have to discipline yourself. And I think that can be the downside of having a laptop as well. You might find it, you tend to work longer hours because you're always going onto your laptop. But I've sat in my car and hotspotted, gone online and worked if I'm waiting for something. We were out filming on a construction site last week, and we had a 2-hour wait where they were waiting for this piping to come that we needed to be filming going into a ground. That's all the job was. But what happened was that I had 2.5 hours of doing nothing at all, sitting waiting. That's potentially what could have happened. I sat in my car, hotspotted from my phone, was able to get online access, and was able to send emails, keep up to date with all of that. It was great, So for me, laptop,
that is great, and I understand why you say, but it's. You can't escape work anymore, can you? That's the downside, is it? You're on holiday, take your laptop. You can still answer emails. You can hotspot your phone. It's just more access to work, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if you're working for yourself, if you're self-employed,
Yeah.
It's both a good and a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
I think we've all decided. Laptops are the way to go, but with a good screen, if you're a photographer, you need to be considering these kind of matte screens. BenQ do a SW271C. I'm not affiliated to them or anything, but and their screen, it's like you're looking at your photographs on a print.
Yeah.
And that's it's just superb.
Yeah. And I just want to finish up on that because I had this same situation with somebody, in fact, last year who bought a laptop, and he was saying that he'd bought his laptop. I can't remember how much I spent on mine. It's probably near 2,000 on the laptop the main laptop that I use. He went and bought a laptop, a Windows laptop, and I think he spent about £500 on it. And he said, "Look, the specs aren't that different." But they are hugely different. And when you look at the screen, with his screen, you move your left head to the left or to the right, and the image, you can't see the image on the screen, all of those things. So a huge part, and I think a lot of people don't think about this, is that when they buy a laptop, the huge part of what they're paying for is screen quality as well. Yeah. And don't look at the spec. Don't just look at the spec. Look at the actual screen that you've got and how it performs, because at least half of that, the value of the laptop is going to be in your screen. Hey, that's what Macs were known for, really, weren't they? Initially, it was a screen quality that Mac really set themselves apart. And their screen quality is still, I think, I don't know. Would you say it's one of the best, Peter? I don't know.
Yeah,
my only complaint is, you can't really calibrate them.
Well, it's very bright, and there's the brightness is fantastic. The color gamut, the amount of colors that it can show is fantastic. It's just the glossy screens for me, in the wrong light, you're looking at your reflection. Yeah. And, I mean, they've started to do it now. You can now buy the studio display with a matte screen, but that's extra because,
Well, when I bought my laptop, I remember when I bought my other one, which was back in 2008, and that's how long the laptop, these laptops last. I had the option of going for a matte screen or the glossy screen, and I went for the matte screen. And I don't think there was a price difference then,
Yeah.
Now, when I bought this one, they didn't do it anymore. They just didn't do the matte screen, and I was thinking,
No.
I thought, why?
There is a trick. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a trick for this. You can go online and you can buy screen protectors that have a matte finish.
Ah, yes.
And I tell you, it protects your screen.
Yeah.
You can get it for the specific model, and it looks better as well.
I might have to look out for that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because when you're
Yeah.
calibrating your screen anyway, which we'd encourage photographers to do,
Yep.
you're calibrating it with the screen display on. So if those colors aren't as bright coming through, it takes that into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah.
You calibrate, put the screen thing on, protector on, look for a matte one. You can get them on eBay for about 25 quid.
It's not
I don't
much.
know, I don't know any specific makes or models, but there's one German company on there that just do amazing screen, screen glare.
Yeah.
Reduce the screen glare. And when you calibrate afterwards, it takes into consideration the brightness. And I literally see no difference apart from there's no glare.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.